First contact in the void. Dr. Sarah Chen never expected to find life in the dead of space. The derelict vessel had been drifting through the Kuiper Belt for months before her research station's sensors picked it up. Initial scans showed no signs of life, just another piece of space debris to catalog and study. But as she guided her maintenance pod closer to the twisted hull, something made her pause. The ship's design was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Its surface rippled with an organic sheen, more reminiscent of a sea creature than a spacecraft. Fractured sections revealed chambers that seemed to pulse with a faint bioluminescence, despite the vessel's apparent lifelessness. "Control, I'm seeing some unusual readings," Sarah reported, adjusting her suit's sensors. "The hull material, it's not just metal. There's some kind of biological component." "Proceed with caution, Dr. Chen," came the response from Director Matthews. "Remember protocol." Sarah had memorized first contact protocols since graduating from the academy, but nothing had prepared her for what she found inside. The ship's interior was a maze of curved corridors that seemed to breathe, walls lined with what looked like crystalline veins. Her helmet lights caught fragments of technology that defied human understanding, devices that appeared to merge mechanical and organic components seamlessly. The emergency beacon that had drawn her here led to what she assumed was the ship's bridge. The entrance had been sealed, but the barrier crumbled at her touch, turned brittle by whatever catastrophe had befallen the vessel. Inside, she found destruction, and a miracle. A stasis pod, still active, pulsed with a soft azure glow. Within it floated a child, no larger than a human infant, but unmistakably alien. Its skin was translucent, showing traces of a circulatory system that glowed with its own inner light. Delicate tendrils, like strands of starlight, floated around its head in place of hair. "Control," Sarah's voice trembled. "I found a survivor. It's a child." The silence that followed felt eternal. "Dr. Chen, you know the quarantine procedures. We can't risk. It's dying." Sarah's instruments confirmed what her instincts told her. The stasis pod was failing, its power nearly depleted. "If we don't act now, we'll lose the first proof of intelligent alien life, and an innocent child." "The risks. I'm bringing it aboard." Sarah's decision was made the moment she saw the child stir in its suspended animation. "Have medical bay ready. And Director, this stays between us, at least until we know more." The next hours were a blur of careful preparation and barely controlled panic. Sarah had to modify her pod's life support to accommodate the stasis unit, all while racing against its failing power supply. Every moment revealed new challenges. The child's unique biology required her to improvise solutions for everything from atmospheric composition to temperature regulation. When they finally reached her research station, hidden in the shadow of a Kuiper Belt object, Sarah faced the biggest challenge yet, keeping her discovery secret from Earth's authorities, while figuring out how to keep the child alive. The medical bay became her world. Days blended together as she worked to understand her ward's unique physiology. The child's biological systems were incredibly advanced, capable of absorbing and processing energy in ways that seemed impossible. More remarkably, it began to adapt to the human environment, its body literally evolving to survive. Sarah named her Aurora, after the ethereal lights that danced beneath her skin. The name seemed fitting for a being who brought such unexpected brilliance to the darkness of space. As weeks passed, Aurora grew stronger. She began to show signs of consciousness, her large iridescent eyes tracking Sarah's movements with increasing awareness. The first time she reached out with one of her delicate hands, Sarah felt her scientific detachment crumble completely. "You're safe," she whispered, letting Aurora grasp her finger. "I'll protect you." But protection became increasingly difficult as Aurora's presence became harder to conceal. The child's abilities began to manifest in startling ways. She could manipulate energy fields, causing equipment to malfunction. More incredibly, she seemed to be developing a form of telepathic communication, projecting emotions and simple images into Sarah's mind. Director Matthews, despite his initial reservations, became their sole ally. He helped fabricate research data to explain the power fluctuations caused by Aurora's abilities and diverted resources to Sarah's private research project. "You understand what you're risking?" he asked one evening, watching Aurora float peacefully in her modified habitat. "Your career, possibly your freedom, everything you've worked for." Sarah nodded, smiling as Aurora created tiny galaxies of light with her fingertips. "Some discoveries change more than our understanding of the universe, Director. They change us." The truth of those words became clear when they detected the first signal. It came from deep space, a pattern that matched the unique energy signature of Aurora's biology. Someone was looking for the lost ship and its precious cargo. Sarah knew then that her decision to save Aurora had set in motion events that would reshape humanity's place in the cosmos. But as she watched her adopted child sleep, trailing stardust in her dreams, she couldn't bring herself to regret it. The void between stars had given her a daughter. Whatever came next, they would face it together, two beings bridging the gap between worlds, proving that family could transcend the boundaries of species and space itself. In the quiet hours of the station's night cycle, Sarah often found herself recording logs, not the official ones required by the station, but personal entries about Aurora's development. She documented every milestone. The first time Aurora successfully mimicked human speech, her growing control over her energy manipulation abilities, and the way she began to understand and respond to human emotions with surprising depth. "She's learning at an exponential rate," Sarah confided to her private log. "But more than that, she's teaching me. Every day with Aurora reveals new possibilities about life, consciousness, and the connections that bind all sentient beings. We're not just studying an alien species, we're learning what it truly means to be human." Learning to be human. 3 years passed on the research station like stardust through an hourglass. Aurora grew not by human standards, but in ways that defied conventional understanding. Her physical form remained small, barely reaching Sarah's waist, but her consciousness expanded like a supernova. The first time Aurora spoke, she didn't just mimic human words. She created them anew. "Mother Sarah," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air itself vibrate with meaning. "The stars are singing today." Sarah had learned to expect the unexpected with Aurora, but this observation led to a breakthrough. Aurora wasn't just sensing electromagnetic radiation. She was perceiving the complex interactions between stellar bodies in ways human instruments couldn't detect. Her mind processed the universe as a vast symphony of energy and matter. Director Matthews, who had become something of an uncle figure to Aurora, helped establish a secure research facility within the station. Here, they could safely explore Aurora's growing abilities without risking detection from Earth's increasingly curious authorities. "Watch," Aurora would say, her translucent fingers weaving patterns in the air. Energy fields visible only to specialized equipment would dance around her, forming complex geometric structures that seemed to bridge dimensions. She learned to manipulate these fields, using them to lift objects, alter molecular structures, and even bend light itself. But with her growing powers came growing dangers. Earth's deep space monitoring stations began detecting unusual energy signatures from their sector. Questions were being asked, and not everyone shared Sarah's protective instincts toward alien life. The situation reached a critical point when a military inspection was scheduled for the station. Admiral Carson, known for his hardline stance on extraterrestrial contact, would personally lead the inspection team. "They cannot find her," Sarah insisted during an emergency meeting with Matthews. "You know what they'll do. They'll treat her like a specimen, a potential weapon." Matthews nodded gravely. "We've prepared for this. Sublevel 7 has been modified. The shielding should mask Aurora's energy signature, but she'll need to control her abilities completely. No slits." Teaching a young alien being to suppress her natural connection to the cosmos proved challenging. Aurora struggled to understand why she needed to hide her true nature. "The humans who are coming," Aurora said, her skin dimming with concern, "they fear what they don't understand. Yes, Sarah answered honestly. Fear makes some humans dangerous, but not all of us are like that. Some of us learn to love what's different. Aurora's response was typically profound, like you learned with me. The inspection day arrived with the heavy certainty of an eclipse. Admiral Carson proved to be every bit as intimidating as his reputation suggested. A tall, steel-haired man whose cybernetic eye constantly scanned his surroundings for anomalies. Impressive facility, Dr. Chen. He commented while reviewing their research data. Though your power consumption seems unusually high for a deep space monitoring station. But with her growing powers came growing dangers. Earth's deep space monitoring stations began detecting unusual energy signatures from their sector. Questions were being asked, and not everyone shared Sarah's protective instincts toward alien life. The situation reached a critical point when a military inspection was scheduled for the station. Admiral Carson, known for his hardline stance on extraterrestrial contact, would personally lead the inspection team. They cannot find her, Sarah insisted during an emergency meeting with Matthews. You know what they'll do. They'll treat her like a specimen, a potential weapon. Matthews nodded gravely. We've prepared for this. Sublevel 7 has been modified. The shielding should mask Aurora's energy signature, but she'll need to control her abilities completely. No slits. Teaching a young alien being to suppress her natural connection to the cosmos proved challenging. Aurora struggled to understand why she needed to hide her true nature. The humans who are coming, Aurora said, her skin dimming with concern. They fear what they don't understand. Yes, Sarah answered honestly. Fear makes some humans dangerous. But not all of us are like that. Some of us learn to love what's different. Aurora's response was typically profound, like you learned with me. The inspection day arrived with the heavy certainty of an eclipse. Admiral Carson proved to be every bit as intimidating as his reputation suggested. A tall, steel-haired man whose cybernetic eye constantly scanned his surroundings for anomalies. Impressive facility, Dr. Chen. He commented while reviewing their research data. Though your power consumption seems unusually high for a deep space monitoring station. Sarah had prepared for this. We're running several long-term experiments on dark matter interaction. The equipment requires significant energy. The Admiral's cybernetic eye whirred. I'd be interested in seeing these experiments. The tour of the facility became an exercise in careful misdirection. Sarah and Matthews had spent weeks fabricating research projects that could explain their unusual energy readings. But as they approached sublevel 6, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Unknown energy surge detected, the station's AI announced. Containment protocols initiated. Sarah's heart stopped. This was exactly what they had feared. But as she rushed to explain, she realized the surge wasn't coming from Aurora's location. It was coming from deep space. The Admiral's communication device activated automatically. Sir, we're detecting multiple objects entering the system at FTL speeds. Energy signatures match no known configuration. In sublevel 7, Aurora stood in her hidden chamber, her body glowing with an intensity Sarah had never seen before. Through their shared mental link, Sarah felt her daughter's mixture of excitement and fear. They're here, Aurora projected. The ones who made me. But they're not alone. Others hunt them. Hunt us. The military inspection suddenly became irrelevant as massive ships appeared on the station's long-range sensors. Their organic mechanical design was hauntingly familiar. They matched the derelict vessel where Sarah had found Aurora. But behind these ships came others, their forms angular and predatory, weapons already charging. The hunters Aurora had sensed, coming to claim their prey. Admiral Carson's reaction surprised everyone. Instead of immediately calling for military reinforcements, he turned to Sarah with an unexpectedly human expression of concern. Dr. Chen, I suspect there's something you haven't told me about your research here. Given what's approaching our system, now would be a very good time for complete honesty. Sarah met his gaze steadily. Admiral, what I'm about to show you will change everything we think we know about life in the universe. But first, I need your word that you'll listen. Really listen before making any decisions. The Admiral's cybernetic eye focused on her with unnerving intensity. You have 5 minutes to convince me why I shouldn't order this station evacuated and quarantined. I'll need only one, Sarah replied, opening a secure channel to sublevel 7. Aurora, sweetheart, it's time to meet someone new. The next few moments would determine not just Aurora's fate, but potentially the future of human-alien relations. As Sarah led the Admiral to meet her adopted daughter, she felt an odd sense of peace. Whatever happened next, the universe had forced their hand. The time for hiding was over. What humanity needed now was understanding. The kind of understanding that only a child bridging two worlds could provide. Aurora, with her ability to perceive the psalms of stars and the harmony of space itself, might be the key to preventing an interstellar war before it began. The Call of the Stars. Admiral Carson had seen many things during his 30 years of space service, but nothing had prepared him for Aurora. The alien child stood in her chamber, her luminescent form casting ethereal patterns on the walls, while streams of data flowed through holographic displays around her. "Hello, Admiral," Aurora said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the Admiral's cybernetic systems tingle. "I've been studying your species. You're much more complex than your physical forms suggest." Carson's hand, which had been hovering near his emergency beacon, slowly dropped to his side. "Remarkable," he breathed. "How long have you been harboring her, Dr. Chen?" 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days, Sarah replied. "And I haven't been harboring her. I've been raising her." Before the Admiral could respond, Aurora's form flickered with intense light. "They're entering communication range," she announced. "The creators wish to speak." The main display in Aurora's chamber activated, showing the approaching vessels. The organic ships had taken up a defensive formation, their crystalline hulls pulsing with energy as they tried to stay ahead of their pursuers. A transmission cut through all the station's communication channels, its alien language transforming into comprehensible speech through Aurora's presence. "We seek the one who dreams of stars," a melodious voice declared. "The child of two worlds, born of light and shadow." "That's what they called me before," Aurora explained, her form dimming slightly. "I remember now. They created me to be a bridge. But something went wrong. The hunters discovered their plan. The pursuing ships were gaining ground, their weapons systems charging. Admiral Carson's military training kicked in. Whatever's happening here, we can't let an alien battle take place in the solar system. The political fallout would be catastrophic. There's more at stake than politics." Sarah interjected. "Aurora, what exactly are you a bridge between?" The child's response was interrupted by a violent tremor that shook the station. The hunters had opened fire, their energy weapons distorting space itself around their targets. "We must protect the bridge, child," the creators transmitted. "The future of many worlds depends upon her survival. The hunters would destroy all that is different, all that could lead to change." Aurora's form began to pulse with increasing intensity. "I understand now," she said, her voice carrying new authority. "The creators made me to prove that different species, different forms of life, could be merged. That boundaries between civilizations could be crossed. The hunters fear this. They believe in genetic purity, in isolation." Admiral Carson's cybernetic eye whirred as he processed this information. "You're saying this child is part of some kind of genetic diplomacy program." "She's more than that," Sarah realized, watching Aurora's power continue to grow. "She's proof that life can transcend its original limitations, that different species can not only coexist but combine to create something new, something wonderful." Another blast rocked the station. The hunters had broken through the creators' defensive line and were approaching rapidly. Their next transmission came filled with cold hatred. The abomination must be destroyed. Genetic purity must be maintained. Aurora turned to Sarah, her eyes swirling with galaxies of light. "Mother Sarah, I know what I have to do now, what I was made for." The Admiral's tactical display showed more hunter ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. We're about to be overwhelmed. Aurora raised her hands, and the very fabric of space seemed to ripple around her. The creators made me to bridge worlds, but they didn't understand what that truly meant. It's not about combining physical forms. It's about connecting minds, hearts, understanding. Energy began flowing from her in waves, reaching out to touch both the creator and hunter vessels. Through the station's sensors, they watched as her power enveloped the ships, creating a network of luminescent strands that connected them all. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked, watching in awe as her daughter's ability manifested on a scale she never imagined possible. "Showing them the truth," Aurora replied, her voice now resonating through space itself. "Showing them what I've learned from you, from humanity. That difference isn't something to fear, it's something to celebrate." The hunter ship's weapons powered down as Aurora's influence reached their crews. Through the network she had created, every being in the vicinity, human, creator, and hunter alike, began experiencing each other's memories, feelings, and perspectives. Admiral Carson staggered, his cybernetic systems overwhelmed by the input. I can feel them. All of them. Their fears, their hopes. Sarah felt it too. The creator's desperate hope for a universe united by understanding. The hunter's deep-rooted fear of change and loss of identity. And through it all, Aurora's unwavering belief in the possibility of harmony between all forms of life. The experience lasted only moments, but its impact would ripple through civilizations. When the connection faded, the hunter ships hung motionless in space, their crews forever changed by what they had shared. "This is what I was meant to do," Aurora said softly, her power receding. "Not to be a weapon or a scientific breakthrough, but to show that understanding comes from connection, from seeing through each other's eyes." Admiral Carson was the first to speak after a long silence. "Dr. Chen, I came here expecting to find a security breach. Instead, I found hope for humanity's future among the stars." The creator's ships moved closer, their next transmission carrying a tone of reverence. "The bridge child has surpassed all we dreamed possible. She has shown us that true evolution comes not from forcing change, but from fostering understanding." Sarah stepped closer to Aurora, noting how her daughter's glow had dimmed with exhaustion. "What happens now?" "Now," Aurora said, looking between her human mother and the ships of her creators, "we build on what we've learned. There are more worlds to connect, more barriers to break down. But first," she swayed slightly, her energy depleted from the massive effort. Sarah caught her daughter as she stumbled, holding her close as she had so many times before. Admiral Carson watched them with new understanding in his human eye. "I'll need to report this to Earth Command," he said finally. "But not as a threat. As first contact done right. As proof that humanity is ready for a larger role in the galaxy." Through the station's windows, they could see the hunter ships beginning to withdraw, while the creators maintained their protective formation. The universe had changed in ways none of them could have predicted when Sarah first found a lonely alien child in a derelict ship. As Aurora rested in her arms, Sarah realized that their greatest adventure was just beginning. The barriers between civilizations hadn't just been broken, they had been transformed into bridges, and her daughter would help guide them all across. Return to the unknown. The weeks following first contact transformed the research station into the center of a new era in human history. Admiral Carson, true to his word, had presented Aurora's existence to Earth's leadership not as a security concern, but as humanity's first step into a larger galactic community. Sarah watched from her office as another creator vessel docked with the station, its crystalline hull shimmering with colors that seemed to defy physics. These diplomatic visits had become routine, but they still filled her with wonder. Through the observation window, she could see Aurora greeting the alien delegates, her form now strong enough to maintain the mental bridges that allowed seamless communication between species. The Security Councils approved the joint mission. Director Matthews announced, entering her office with a datapad. They want to proceed as soon as possible. Sarah nodded, though her heart tightened at the implications. The creators had proposed a bold initiative, a journey to their homeworld, where Aurora could help establish a permanent connection between human and creator civilizations. It was an unprecedented opportunity, but it meant leaving the safety of the station that had been their home for years. "Have you told her yet?" Matthews asked gently. "She already knows," Sarah replied, watching her daughter guide the alien delegates through the station's corridors. "Sometimes I forget she can sense these things before they're even decided." The mission would require months of faster-than-light travel, even with creator technology. Sarah had spent days reviewing the specifications for the hybrid vessel they would use, a creator ship modified to accommodate human physiology, with Aurora's unique needs at its core. Later that evening, as Sarah helped Aurora prepare for their journey, she found her daughter unusually quiet. "What's troubling you, sweetheart?" she asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Aurora's luminescent form flickered slightly, a sign of emotional disturbance. "The hunters aren't all convinced," she said finally. "I can feel their doubt, their fear, even across the vast distances. Some still believe that separation is the natural order." Sarah had worried about this. Despite Aurora's dramatic demonstration of unity, generations of ingrained beliefs wouldn't change overnight. Reports indicated that some hunter factions were already arguing for isolation, for maintaining what they called cosmic purity. "Change takes time," Sarah reminded her. "What you did, showing them another way, that was just the beginning." "But what if they're right?" Aurora's voice carried harmonics of uncertainty. "What if bringing different species together causes more harm than good?" Sarah sat beside her daughter, noting how Aurora's glow synchronized with her own biorhythms, a subtle demonstration of their deep connection. "Do you remember what you told Admiral Carson about how complexity isn't something to fear?" Aurora nodded, her form brightening slightly. "That's what makes humanity special," Sarah continued. "We're messy and complicated, and sometimes we make mistakes, but we keep trying, keep reaching out, keep believing that understanding is possible. That's what you help the hunters and creators see, not just our differences, but our shared hope for something better." Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the station's eye. Another ship had arrived, but this one was different. A hunter vessel, alone, and broadcasting a request for dialogue. Admiral Carson's voice came through the comm system. "Dr. Chen, they're asking specifically for Aurora. Say they represent a faction that wants to learn." Sarah exchanged a look with her daughter, seeing determination replace uncertainty in those starlit eyes. This was what Aurora had been created for, not just to bridge species, but to help them grow beyond their fears. The hunter delegation was nothing like Sarah expected. Instead of the militant force they'd encountered before, these were scholars, scientists, and philosophers. Their angular environmental suits couldn't hide their obvious nervousness, but also their curiosity. "We have questions," their leader stated simply, their translated voice carrying complex harmonics that Aurora easily interpreted. "About change, about possibility." What followed was an unprecedented exchange of ideas. Through Aurora's abilities, humans, hunters, and creators shared not just thoughts but experiences. Sarah watched in amazement as ancient enemies began finding common ground, not by ignoring their differences, but by understanding them. The hunter scholars were particularly fascinated by human history. "Your species has faced extinction multiple times," one observed. "Yet you survived by adapting, by changing." "Change isn't just about survival," Aurora explained, creating a display of swirling energy that represented the intermingling of cultures and ideas. "It's about growth, about becoming more than we are alone." As the dialogue continued, Sarah noticed something remarkable. The hunters' initially rigid postures had relaxed, their movements becoming more fluid as they engaged with ideas they had once feared. It was a small change, but a significant one. The upcoming journey to the creator homeworld took on new meaning. It would now include hunter representatives, making it a truly cooperative mission. The vessel itself would be redesigned, incorporating elements from all three civilizations. We'll need to modify the environmental systems, Sarah mused, reviewing the new specifications, and the communication arrays will have to be completely rebuilt. I can help with that, Aurora offered, her form shifting through patterns that matched the proposed designs. The principles aren't so different. It's all about finding harmony between different ways of existing. Admiral Carson, who had been quietly observing the proceedings, finally spoke. You know, when I first came to this station, I thought I was protecting Earth from a potential threat. Instead, I found myself watching the beginning of something revolutionary. Sarah understood what he meant. Every day brought new discoveries, new challenges, and new opportunities for understanding. The universe was revealing itself to be far more complex and interconnected than anyone had imagined. As they prepared for their historic journey, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come from that first moment she found Aurora in a derelict ship. What had started as an act of compassion, saving an abandoned child, had grown into something that would reshape the future of multiple civilizations. Mother Sarah, Aurora called, pulling her from her thoughts. The hunters have a saying, "The void between stars is not empty. It is filled with possibility." I think I finally understand what that means. Sarah smiled, watching as human engineers worked alongside creator and hunter specialists, their differences forgotten in their shared purpose. So do I, sweetheart. So do I. The modified vessel that would carry them to the creator homeworld was nearing completion, its hybrid design a physical manifestation of what Aurora had achieved, proof that different ways of being could not only coexist, but create something greater than the sum of their parts. Two worlds, one family. The creator homeworld hung in space like a jewel carved from light itself. From the bridge of the hybrid vessel Unity, Sarah watched as crystalline cities caught the light of three suns, creating cascading rainbows that danced across the planet's atmosphere. After 6 months of faster-than-light travel, they had finally arrived. Aurora stood beside her luminescent form pulsing in harmony with the planet's natural resonance. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "but different from my memories. More complete." The memories Aurora spoke of weren't truly her own. They were genetic echoes imprinted by her creators, meant to guide her home one day. But home had become a more complex concept than anyone had anticipated. Admiral Carson, who had insisted on accompanying the mission, studied the tactical displays with professional interest. The planet was defended by an array of organic mechanical satellites that made Earth's most advanced technology look primitive by comparison. Yet instead of feeling threatened, he found himself appreciating their elegant efficiency. "The Hunter delegation is requesting permission to begin their approach," reported Lieutenant Zhang, their communications officer who had spent months learning to interface with the hybrid systems. The presence of Hunter representatives on this diplomatic mission was perhaps Aurora's greatest achievement yet. The faction that had chosen to embrace change had grown, inspiring others to question their ancient beliefs about genetic purity. "Permission granted," Sarah confirmed, watching as the Hunter vessel moved into formation alongside them. Its typically aggressive design had been modified, incorporating creator crystalline technology and human-inspired communication arrays. Like everything else about their mission, it represented a fusion of different approaches coming together in harmony. The descent to the creator homeworld was unlike anything in human experience. The atmosphere itself seemed alive, responding to their presence with patterns of light and energy that Aurora explained were actually complex welcome messages. Their landing site was a vast plaza surrounded by towers that seemed to grow from the ground like crystal trees. Representatives from various creator factions had gathered to witness the historic moment, the return of their bridge child, and the beginning of a new era of cooperation between species. As they prepared to disembark, Sarah noticed Aurora's glow flickering with nervous energy. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" "They're all expecting so much," Aurora replied, her voice carrying harmonics of concern. The creators see me as their greatest achievement. The hunters who came with us are counting on me to prove change is possible, and humanity. She paused, looking at her adopted mother. Humanity needs me to be their bridge to the stars. Sarah knelt beside her daughter, noting how even after all these years, Aurora's physical form remained small and delicate-looking, belying the immense power and wisdom she contained. You've never been just one thing, Aurora. That's your greatest strength. The first step onto creator soil was broadcast across 3 civilizations. Humans, creators, and hunters watched as their representatives emerged from the unity together. Aurora walked between Sarah and the hunter delegation leader, her glow creating a literal bridge of light between them. The Creator High Council awaited them in a chamber that defied physics, its walls shifting and flowing to accommodate the different environmental needs of each species present. The hunter representatives, still wearing their modified environmental suits, stood with notably relaxed postures, a dramatic change from their traditionally rigid bearing. "Welcome home, Bridge Child." The council elders' thoughts resonated directly in their minds, Aurora's presence allowing seamless communication. "You have exceeded all expectations." Aurora's response surprised everyone. "Home is not a place," she said, her form brightening. "It's the connections we forge, the understanding we build. You created me to be a bridge, but I've become something more. Proof that the boundaries between species exist only in our minds." She demonstrated her point by creating a display of pure energy, showing how human DNA could be made compatible with creator biological systems, how hunter genetic purity could be maintained even while allowing for controlled adaptation. It was a masterwork of scientific achievement that had 3 civilizations' greatest minds taking notes frantically. "Your daughter," the hunter delegation leader said to Sarah, "has shown us that adaptation does not mean loss of identity. It means growth." The negotiations that followed would shape the future of 3 civilizations. The creators offered to share their biological technology, while the hunters who had embraced change brought their unparalleled understanding of genetic science. Humanity, represented by Admiral Carson, offered something equally valuable: their adaptability, their creativity, their unrelenting drive to explore and understand. But it was Aurora who proposed the most ambitious project yet. "A true bridge," she explained, creating a holographic model in the center of the chamber. "A station at the intersection of our territories, where all species can come together to learn, to grow, to create something new." The design she proposed would incorporate elements from all 3 civilizations: creator organic technology, hunter precision engineering, and human innovation. It would be a place where boundaries could be safely crossed, where different species could collaborate without fear. "Ambitious," the council elder observed. "Yet you've already proven such cooperation is possible. The very vessel that brought you here stands as testament to that." Sarah watched with pride as her daughter continued to present her vision. She remembered the tiny, frightened child she'd found in a derelict ship, now grown into a being who could reshape the very fabric of interstellar society. The hunter delegation leader, who had been quiet for some time, suddenly spoke. "There will be resistance," they warned. "Change, even positive change, creates fear. Fear exists to be overcome," Aurora replied, her voice carrying the wisdom of 3 civilizations. "Look at us in this room. Yesterday's enemies, today's allies, tomorrow's family." As if to emphasize her point, a subtle vibration ran through the chamber, the creator homeworld itself responding to the harmony of different species working together. The hunter representatives' suits registered the vibration, adapting their internal environment to match it, while human sensors recorded patterns that would take years to fully understand. "Family," Sarah repeated softly, watching as her daughter continued to bridge worlds with grace and wisdom. "That's what this has always been about, hasn't it?" Aurora turned to her, starlight dancing in her eyes. "You taught me that, Mother Sarah. That family isn't about where you come from, but who you choose to become together." The council chamber erupted in discussions, plans being made, future paths being charted. But for Sarah, watching her daughter stand confident and strong between worlds, the future was already clear. They had found something greater than understanding between species. They had discovered that the truest bridges are built not by technology or biology, but by love. As three suns set on the Creator homeworld, casting the crystal cities in sheets of multicolored light, Sarah knew that their journey hadn't ended, it had only begun. Somewhere in the void between stars, humanity's next great adventure was waiting, and thanks to a child who bridged worlds, they wouldn't face it alone.